Hello, everyone. Thank you for meeting me here. This is Ruthie Renae with Quantum Field Trips, and I'm here today with Shelly Wallstrom. I'm so excited that you're here with me, Shelly. Shelly went to the same school as I did, but a few years prior.
Uh-huh.
We met at a retreat years ago, and it was so fun to meet you. And we were quite aligned with the mind, body, spirit because health is such an important factor too, and we'll get into that. But Shelly, before we dive in too deeply into the body, I am so curious to find out where your hypnotherapy came in. Why did you decide you wanted to do hypnotherapy or hypnosis?
That's a good question, Ruthie. And I've always been drawn to the law of attraction, self-help, self-motivation, even before it was even really thought of.
Popular.
Yeah, back when it was popular, back in my 20s, which was like 30 something years ago, I couldn't get enough of it. It
Mm,
was like, this is such cool information. And I thought to myself, our mind is so powerful. Um,
absolutely.
and so I would just read anything I could and anything I could get my hands on. And um, as my girls were graduating and going through school, there was a gentleman in our neighborhood who taught hypnotherapy. And I had asked him one time about it, and I was really intrigued. And I'm thinking, I think this is something I would be really interested in. At the time, I was busy getting my last daughter through high school, which I'll explain why it was so hard. And so it wasn't the right timing. And one day, once I got her graduated, and I thought to myself, you know what? There's something out here that I really want to do. I really wanted to help people. Didn't know how that looked like. And I was just jogging one day, and I had this idea to stop at his house. And I said, tell me about hypnosis. Tell me about your school. I mean, the only thing I knew about hypnosis at the time is I had gone to a show and been the entertainment because I wanted to see what it felt like to be hypnotized. So I that was the only thing I knew, is that it was used to make people laugh.
Mhm.
And
Act
so
like a
when
duck.
yeah, exactly. And so I didn't have any preconceived notions of what it was or anything. I just thought that was fun. And I wasn't sure. I was kind of hesitant. He's like, you know what, just come to my class. And I said, okay. So I came to one of his classes. First day, it was like, yeah, I can take leave it. But the second day, I watched him hypnotize somebody. And I watched them have such a drastic change that I literally start crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what this is, not how it works, but I know this is for me. That was
Wow.
in 2000. That was the end of 2015.
Okay. So you lived in, I'm guessing you're talking about Dennis Parker.
Uh-huh. Yep,
So you lived in his neighborhood?
I did. Yep.
How lucky for
Yeah,
you. How
I know.
fun.
Such a great guy. Yeah.
And that was I still now Dennis is gone. He's
Yes.
gone to live on the other side and of the veil, and his two of his many boys have taken over the school, and they still run the school, and you still get training from Dennis Parker. They've
Mhm.
gone through all the years of training and taken the best sessions, and so his students are still learning from Dennis, but then I love the way they're doing it. They start practicing on each other and stuff. So I'll put in the show notes a link if anybody's ready and watched enough videos and they're like, okay, yes, I want to do this. They do, everything is online now thanks to COVID, and I think you can still go there live if you
Yes,
happen to
you
live in
can.
the Utah far west vicinity, but
You
you
can.
don't have to. I'll put a link in the show notes. But so you went through Dennis's school.
I did. I went through school and just fell in love with it. And I
That's
thought,
great.
this is cool. This is a really great tool. When I first became one, though, um, I would tell people I'm a hypnotherapist, and they look at me like I was the devil. Right? You're going to control my mind. You're going to read my mind. And I would
Mhm.
say, if I could have controlled anybody's mind, I would have wanted to control my teenagers when they were growing up. If I wanted to read somebody's mind, I think I'd want to read my husband's. I think, but I realized, it's not mind control. It's mind focus, right? It's so hyper focused that you're able to get to the root of those beliefs and those stories. that are holding you back.
Yeah. And now those girls are all grown up and you've got one of the grandbabies near. I should have
Mm.
introduced her too, but we're talking nice and quiet and soothing. So she will just go to sleep, but she's adorable.
Thank you.
So tell me, because we learn so much from stories anyway, and I love stories. Tell me if you can pick one out of the gajillions. What's one of your favorite stories of life-changing clients moments?
Oh my gosh, I have a really good one. And what I like is they come in and you never really know what's going to happen, right?
Right?
I mean, there's been fun ones like a baseball player from high school who all of a sudden became afraid of the ball. Well, you can't be afraid of the ball when it's coming at you at 90 miles an hour, right? And just after one session, he went and played a game and caught a winning ball and made 2 home runs. So it was like, that's so cool,
Wow.
you know? And I had another girl who was running for cheerleader who was a great tumbler who became afraid to tumble, right? And after one session, she was able to do her back tuck. And so things like that are so crazy and so cool. My favorite one happened several months ago. I had a client, she'd come to me once and she came back for another session. And she's sitting in my chair and she goes, I shouldn't be here today. I'm like, why? And she's like, this is just not a good day. I really wanted to cancel, but it wasn't working out. So I'm here, but I really don't think I'm going to be able to do anything because it's just not a good day. And I'm like, well, why? What's going on? She goes, well, it's my daughter's 17th birthday. I'm like, okay. And she passed away at 3 days old.
Oh.
And I looked her in the eyes and I said, this is going to be the best day of your life.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, I hope there's somebody that's going to help me with this because I've never dealt with that before, but I made that promise. I'm like, I do not know what this is going to look like. And I was really scared because I knew she was hurting.
Yeah.
And she said that every time it came around to that time of year, from the date of the baby was born to the date the baby died, she pretty much did anything she could to numb out. So, when it first happened, she would be out drinking or partying for 3 days straight. Then it was eating, and then it was, excessive exercise, anything, so she wouldn't have to think about it.
Distract. Yeah.
Anything to distract, right? And I was like, okay, this is gonna be amazing. And so I said to her, okay. And at the time, I wanted her to get back before the baby was born.
Mhm.
And she wouldn't. She would not go back. So I couldn't go back to before so that we could work through it. She just wasn't, she just was so blocked that anytime she got close to the death of the baby, it stopped. So any of her memories before the baby, she had blocked.
Mm.
And I was struggling thinking, what am I going to do if I can't get her to go back before so we can address it and help her clear? What am I going to do? And it popped into my head that all of a sudden I said to her, tell me about the baby. She's like, what? I said, well, your baby lived for 3 days. Tell me about it. What was it like being pregnant? What was it like when she was born? And she's like, I have not thought about her since she's died. And I'm like, and also she just lit up. She's like, oh my gosh, she was the most beautiful baby. She was so perfect. And she just started to tell me about how amazing this baby was. And she had that click, that aha, that, wow, instead of celebrating that I had this baby for 3 days and that I'll have her forever, all I've been doing was focused on the pain and the death.
Mhm.
And she got done and it changed her. And
Aw.
she said, I needed that. And so we were talking about, instead of numbing out during this time period, what if you celebrated her? What if you celebrated the fact that you had this beautiful, perfect baby and you will have her again? And she never didn't have that belief. She always believed that, but it was just so painful. And then she came back a month later and I said, how have things been? And she's like, amazing. She goes, amazing. It has changed my life.
Aw.
And it was so powerful to see, what that aha did, that that mind change from, I can't face this, right? Because when something comes up and we go, I don't want to deal with it, we go, right? We just
Right.
stuff it. And that's what she'd been doing for 17 years, is stuffing and stuffing
Yeah.
those emotions. And when she was able to break through and see it from a different perspective, that she still had that baby for 3 days. Oh my gosh, so great, so powerful.
So now she's able to celebrate life. I felt a couple of things just happened while you were talking, and I'm listening and I'm looking at this beautiful baby. So I'm smiling, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden I'm realizing, oh, this is a sad story. Let's maybe I'll not smile. And so then I'm listening, and without consciously thinking about it, I notice I'm rocking back and forth with you. I'm mirroring, which is something that naturally happens as humans. So that's something that we use in the chair often with,
Right.
and we can learning how to use your own self hypnosis skills you can use with your children and all kinds of fun things. But what I wanted to touch on is that it seems like a very simple story. Somebody who has a positive attitude can listen to this story and say, well, like, yeah, of course, focus on the positive if you focus on the negative. However, when something is stuck in the subconscious mind, you have this, the critical factor filter is what we
Mhm.
call it in hypnosis. And you might cognitively think, I want to remember the good, but subconscious, that pain is so thick that it kicks it out, it blocks it out of your mind. So you're stuck. So there is so much power in getting into a hypnotic state with a trusted
Mhm.
guide like yourself or like myself. So that is a beautiful story. And then just like that, I almost snapped really loud. It's just a soft snap, just like that, she's able to enjoy a better quality of life and see and remember that sweet baby. That, oh, I've got goosebumps. I love, love, love happy stories like that. Thank you.
Thank
Now,
you.
Shelly, you are one of the things I love about you is that you mirror my mind body health awareness. There's, yes, we absolutely need to work with the brain and our subconscious mind. Sometimes, however, we have physical things. We have all of these vitamins, minerals, amino acids, all of these things that are crucial to our mental health in our physical bodies.
Right.
And sometimes we overlook that. But you have an amazing story with how you discovered the power of amino acids, which are just simple building blocks of protein that are essential to so many of our physical functions. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Oh, I'd love to. I became a hypnotherapist first,
Mhm.
and I had these clients, and I'm sure, I don't know if you did, Ruthie, but not the ones that say, prove to me that you can hypnotize me, but the ones that really want to, right?
Mhm.
And I would have a couple that come to me, and I'd work with them, and I'm like, gosh, that was a great session. And then they'd come back, and it was like I hadn't done anything. And I'm like, what the heck? That I thought was so good, and why are you still stuck? So I
Mhm.
work with them again, and I have this great session, and then they come back, and I say it's like 50 first dates.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, what is the missing link? There's something here that's not allowing them to process or keep the changes. Could there be a chemical imbalance? I mean, that was my thought, but I didn't know anything. I just knew that something wasn't right.
Mhm.
At the same time, I am a mother of an addict. My daughter started at age 6. She was diagnosed with anxiety. She came to me and said, "Mom, I just want to be a doc. I don't feel good. What do I do?" And I took her, got her some medications. Age 15, she came to me and said, "Mom, I'm tired of being a doctor's science project. I just want to feel normal." And unfortunately, for her, normalcy came from alcohol and marijuana. And
Mhm.
so when I said I didn't have time to become a hypnotherapist when she was in school, is because I was doing everything I could to get her to graduate and to keep her alive.
Right.
I thought I could ground her enough, or I could love her enough and make changes, get her to change. Got her out of high school and put her in a rehab program. And she came out clean. She came out clean from marijuana and alcohol, but she came out addicted to sugar and starches and caffeine
Mhm.
and tobacco. But I was like, okay, well, those are legal. It might not be my first choice of what I want to do, but at least it's not drug and alcohol. And in my naivety, I'm like, oh yay, we're good. We'll live happily ever after, right? Well, 30 days after getting out of the rehab center, she met up with the roommate that she met in the center who got her on meth. And meth is a drug of the devil. And I lived in complete fear that I was going to lose her, that she was going to kill somebody, kill herself, or end up in jail. First time she did end up in jail, I was like, hallelujah, I know where my daughter's at. As crazy as that sounds.
Yeah.
And also, again, in my naivety, I'm like, well, if I ever went to jail, I'd never have to go back there. And that's what I thought, right? But I watched the cycle. She'd go clean. Mom, I'm going to stay clean for like 6 months. She'd be white knuckling that, and then I'd watch the alcohol, marijuana, and then into meth. And I watched the cycle, and then she'd end up in jail. One of those phone calls I had to make because I was afraid of my daughter. And if, as a mother, if you've ever had to call the cops on your daughter, the hardest phone call I ever made, I was so afraid. And after her 4th time of this cycle, I just prayed. Because I'm like, you know what? If something doesn't happen, I'm a loser. There's got to be an answer. The thing I learned about addicts is, number one, they don't want to be one. Number 2 is they're just self-medicating from past experiences or mental health issues. And number 3, when they're just because they're not using doesn't mean they feel good.
Right.
And so I did. I prayed. I said, Heavenly Father, you got to help me out here. I don't know the answer, but somewhere I got to find the answer. And within 2 days, there was a local show on a Consumer Report where they talked about how they're using amino acids. And just like you said, they're just amino acids to build the blocks of protein. And they were using large doses in a IV. And after 3 days, the cravings started to go away. And after 10 days, almost completely gone. There was an 85% rate of recovery, which, if you know anything about addiction, is phenomenal, right? Okay. So I thought, well, that's my answer. Okay. Oh, she's not crying. Oh,
Sneeze it out, baby girl.
Anyway, but it's $1,000 a day.
Oh.
And I'm like, isn't there a better answer?
An affordable answer?
An affordable answer, right? It's like, okay, I'll do whatever I can. But what about those hypnotherapy clients I have that are struggling, right? How do I tell them? I think I have an idea for you, but it's going to cost you $1,000 a day, right? So my thought was, I'll just run to the health food store and buy a whole bunch of amino acids in supplement form, and I'll give them to my daughter. And maybe it'll take longer than 3 days, or 10 days. Maybe it'll take a month. Maybe it'll help her feel better. And luckily at the time I had a son-in-law who was a nurse. And I said, okay, I'm going to go buy all these. And I'm going to give them to her and tell me what to give her. And he's like, you can't just throw amino acids at people. You need to understand how they work. I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably a really good idea. So I Googled amino acids used in recovery centers as a supplement. I found one out of Florida, and I contacted him and I said, look, I have clients, but I feel like they're missing something that's making it so that they can't make the changes they want. And I have a daughter of an addict. Can you teach me about amino acids? He's like, I could. I'll teach you everything you need to know. But in 2 weeks, we're having a training in Salt Lake City, and you can attend that and learn everything you need to know. Salt Lake City is 30 minutes from my house. Yeah. So it answered. And what it did is I learned about the brain and how in our brain we have what's called neurotransmitters. Very happy, calm, feel good chemicals. They really are chemicals in the brain. So when somebody says it might be a chemical imbalance, it really is. Right?
Yeah.
And when they stop working, they stop, either become depleted because either some people are born with less of them, sometimes because toxins or lifestyle or diet. 60% of people over the age 40, neurotransmitters become depleted. And they could be starving their neurotransmitters because a lot of the amino acids they actually create in the body. And if they're not creating enough of them, then those neurotransmitters aren't being fed. But when they stop being fed, then symptoms such as anxiety, depression, worry, stress, lack of energy, lack of sleep, cravings, addiction, weight gain become real.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that's the only reason, but it's something that I didn't know about.
Right.
And the simple way to fix it is by simply feeding your brain these brain food, this amino acids. Because we like to live in a world of homeostasis, and when we don't, we look for something to make us feel better.
Mhm.
Sugar or starches, caffeine, aspartame, drugs, alcohol, behaviors such as too much gaming, too much gambling, um, too much social media, uh,
Shopping,
too much
overworking.
shopping, working. Yep, too much.
Compulsions are everywhere. I think it's so silly when people point the finger because your compulsions are different than mine. But
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
most of us have some
Mhm.
level of
Yeah.
compulsion.
But we turn to these to make us feel better.
Hmm.
Well, when you feed your brain the specific amino acids, it reduces those cravings and it reduces those symptoms. And I became so excited that I started sharing it with everybody. And yes, there are the hardcore, and I say, addiction is like this many, even though it's a big portion. But when you think of hardcore addiction, right?
Right.
But what I realized is, wait a minute, this isn't just for hardcore addicts. This is for children who struggle with focus, who struggle with anxious, teenagers um, who struggle. I mean, I can't, these last 2 years, being a teenager, I can imagine what it would be like to be a teenager when you're supposed to be carefree and now you're wearing a mask and you're not able to, go out
Prom and
socialize.
graduation and
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
all those things.
all those things, or even parents, even adults who are just doing their best to get by. And when I realized that, I spread it as I went out and started telling everybody I could, and it exploded because it was like, oh my gosh, there's so many people who are struggling, right? So by feeding a specific amino acid for the brain to raise those, there's four neurotransmitters: your serotonin, your GABA, your endorphins, and your what am I missing?
Oxytocin,
No, and
dopamine.
your energy, your dopamine. It's like, what is that fourth one? And keeping your blood sugar level, right?
Hmm.
It makes a huge difference. So my business is Feed Your Brain, Change Your Life. Um, in fact, I wrote a book, Feed Your Brain, Change Your Life, in 2020 when I couldn't go out and speak. About, I'll write a book.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, and so it's the brain, which is the feeding the amino acids, and then the nutrition, because there's a connection between the brain and body when it comes to mental health. What you eat matters.
Hmm.
So even just tweaking someone's diet just a little bit can make a huge difference, right?
And where do we get from our diet? Where do we get amino acids? Because they're building blocks of protein. I hear people say, well, I eat meat. I have all the iron and amino acids I need.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. They come from protein. So they come from meat. They come from eggs. They come from plants. The challenge is once you become depleted, you cannot eat enough protein to raise a neurotransmitter.
Hmm.
Um, so what we do with the protein when it comes to this program is you've got the amino acids, which are going in like a fire hydrant and feeding those neurotransmitters. If you need it, you may feel a difference within 20 minutes or less, which is super cool. Then we're supporting them with nutrition, because then by supporting them with the protein, right, you're feeding the brain. And so eventually you're either not going to need the amino acids or maybe just a little bit for maintenance.
Okay.
So you do that. And then I add in hypnotherapy, which makes it like a three-legged stool, right?
Right.
Optimal health.
So you have your training wheels to get your brain working physically the way it's supposed to. And then you shift into the mental awareness and help with the hypnotherapy so it stays that way.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
So now when somebody listening is thinking, well, how do I know? How do I know if I'm deficient in what certain amino acid? Do I buy a bottle of everything and try it? Do you have a sample pack where you just because amino acids aren't dangerous?
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
what would one do?
The first thing I would do is tell you go to my website, which is hypnoaminos.com.
Okay.
And right on the front page, there's a quiz. Could amino acids be your missing link? And you take that, and it gives you an idea that, oh yeah, these are the symptoms I feel. These are what I take when I feel that way. So it gives you an idea of, oh yeah, these are the neurotransmitters that could benefit from the amino acids. So that would be my first step.
Okay.
The second thing is you can get my book because it has my story in it. It also has a section on each of the amino acids and hypnotherapy, how they all work.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Oh, so you tie the hypnosis in with the, do you
absolutely.
happen that's pretty neat. Where else? So if somebody wants to, they go to your website, somebody wants to find you, where are all the places that people can find you besides your book and website?
Yeah. You can get a hold of me. You can text me on my phone number. If you go to my website, it's on there,
Okay.
hypnoaminos.com. My phone number is on there. You can call me. You can text me. You can email me at shellyjo at hypnoaminos.com.
Mhm.
I do one-on-ones. I do it over Zoom. So
So you can be anywhere.
you can be anywhere in the United States. Well, anywhere. I actually have a wholesaler who's in New Zealand, and I have a client that was in Honduras. So the world we become very global and
Yeah.
we can take clients anywhere, right?
Yes.
And then I also train other hypnotherapists, other energy healers, how to use amino acids and hypnotherapy in their business. I mean, amino acids and nutrition in their business. So it's like I said, it doesn't matter the modality. Mine is hypnotherapy, yours is hypnotherapy. Somebody else's could be Reiki or foot zone or whatever. You
Right.
take the amino acids and nutrition, and you add it
Mhm.
to that modality, and it works the same no matter what the modality is. And so then I train them, and then they buy the amino acids for wholesale, and so it works really cool.
So any kind of practitioner could get a wholesale account and then help their own clients.
Absolutely.
Well, that is pretty snazzy. That
Cool.
that's great. I didn't even realize that when I reached out to you. So thank you for sharing that. If there are was somebody either for themselves or maybe they're a mom like you that has children or loved ones that are struggling and they're thinking, how do I'm listening to your story and thinking, okay, you didn't have time to take the course in hypnosis because you were just trying to get her graduated and helping her. And if I do this, if I ground her enough, if I give these parameters, all of these things, and probably what you needed was that self hypnosis or the hypnosis course so you could help her. And how lovely that the divine intersection with you having everything you needed, the tools in the right time. The person was coming to do a training in Salt Lake City. I just love all of those little not coincidences.
Not coincidence. Yeah.
Everything we need when we're reaching out and we're looking, when we're searching, everything we're looking for is within our grasp. And I see that all the time. However, like that sweet client of yours who was searching for pain, and that's what she found all the time. We want to search for things that are going to help us move forward. What advice would you give for somebody who is just feeling stuck or scared or fill in the blank?
Well, you have to have a belief that there are answers. There's got to be some hope, even if it's a slimmer of hope, right? And that's why I say, answers come in really weird ways. Who knew I'd become a hypnotherapist and specialize in amino acids and now have my own line of amino acids, right? I mean, that was never in my my idea, right? But that would be my first thing is to have a little bit of hope and then find somebody that can help you. Find either a hypnotherapist or somebody that can help you if and I like what you said, Ruthie. Yes, self hypnosis is fabulous
Mhm,
once you learn how to use it.
mhm.
Um, but it's also realizing, what, there may not be something wrong with you. It may be a chemical imbalance, right?
Right. What if it is an easy fix like that?
What if it
Yeah.
is? What if it is as easy
Yeah.
as taking some amino acids, and feeding the brain what it's been missing? What if it's as easy it is, to go to a hypnotherapist and have them help guide you through some of those blocks because we have these beliefs that we've carried forever and we may not know the bottom of the story, right?
Right.
We may
Right.
not know what those stories are. We just know we don't feel right. And so
I love that answer because it really gives absolutely everyone possibility. You don't have to know. That was
Mhm.
my saving grace, and the fear that I had wrapped around, how do I can't help these people. I don't even know how to help myself. And then I realized, oh, I don't have to have any answers. I just have to know how to ask questions. So for anybody, that first step is release the fear that you don't have the answers. You don't have to have the answers. You just have
Mhm.
to have that belief, that
Just that belief.
that baby step, that what if it is out there? What if all of my answers are right in front of me and I just need to see them? And then you start asking questions. You ask anybody and everybody, and take in their advice, and probably 90% of the advice you're going to throw out the window because it doesn't align with you or your family or what you need. But it doesn't matter as long as you're searching, those answers are there, aren't they?
Absolutely. And one of my favorite things is to say is just say yes. You don't know where it's
Yeah.
going to take you, and it's interesting to me because my business has been just on that premise of just say yes. I mean, the first time I went and spoke in Arizona, I had never spoke, and I got invited, and my husband thought I was crazy. He's like, "You're going to go where?" I'm going to Arizona to speak, and it's just because I said yes, which led me to the people that when I said to them, go buy these amino acids, and they're like, "Why don't you just tell us what to get?" I'm like, "Just go to the health food store." And they're like, "Why don't you have your own amino acids?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Who does that?" And I come home and I'm like, "I think I need my own amino acids, right?" Just said yes. And it just evolved. And now I have my own product. And so
One
you don't
step
have
leads
to
to another.
get one step leads to another. And by just saying yes, it's going to take you one step a little bit farther. And it opens you up to the divine, the universe, and things get crazy and it gets exciting.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And that's like one thing with every hypnotherapist, whatever school you go to, we focus on language, and the no's and the I can't and I don't know and all of those things will just hold you back.
Mhm.
Opening up to what if and how, and let me find a way. I'm not sure, but I know it's there. The yes, that's the right direction. That's wonderful. I love your journey. I love your experience. I love the empathy that you have for so many people because you've gone through it yourself. And I love everything that you're sharing, and the beauty in what you give to the world. So thank you so much for Shelly for being here today and every day. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you so much, Ruthie, for inviting me. I appreciate it. Life
Take
matters.
care.
You matter. We all matter, right?
We all met. Absolutely. Every soul. And if you want to connect with Shelly, look in the show notes. I'll have her website, and everything that you need is right there on her website. And we'll check it, and I'll put a link. Is your book on Amazon or just through your website?
On Amazon. But you can
Okay,
find
well,
it, the link from my
okay.
website.
We'll put a link in there as well. All
Awesome.
right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
girl.
so much. And you just snuggle that princess and have a wonderful day.
I will. Thank you. Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye.